look at this. Look at this. Actively black. Says it right here on the sleeve, too. Actively black. Man, what are you mad about now? I'm familiar with Actively Black. It's a black-owned sports brand, activewear, started by Lanny Smith. Yeah, but this shit don't piss you off? Why would it piss me off? What if we had Actively White gear? We've had it. Man, what? Look, never mind. What's the point of your little tirade here? My point is I'm so sick and tired of black, black, black. This is Black History Month. Why don't we have a White History Month? I agree with you. Wait, what? I agree. Let's have a White History Month. In fact, let's start right now. Okay. We'll call it the overview. All right. Okay, in order to talk about white history, we need to go back to where the white race began, 1676. You see, prior to this, white had been used as a descriptor of people, but never had been an official race. But after we colonized America and stole land from the indigenous people, the Europeans here had a problem. The poor people kept having rebellions against the rich people. So what they decided was to create the white race. This was a way to convince people that you were part of something bigger than yourself and that the rich people weren't your enemy, but those other people were. Now, who was allowed to be white? That changed over the years. You see, for the next century and a half, chattel slavery was based primarily around race, and it started from the transatlantic slave trade. And throughout the 17th and 18th century, even into the 19th century, certain people that came over that we identify as white now were not identified as white then. For example, the Italians or the Irish initially were not considered white, but because white is a completely made-up race, they later decided Italian and Irish people are white. This idea is called white supremacy, where we create this mythology of a race that's superior than others. Races. Like, hey, poor white man, you might not be rich, but at least you're not an enslaved black man. In 1860, the idea of abolishing slavery was becoming more popular, and white people didn't like that. Abraham Lincoln, who was an abolitionist himself, became president, and the southern states here in America seceded from the Union. You've heard the story. It's called the Civil War. Now, after the Civil War ended in 1865, white people didn't just give up their white supremacy. No, they then began a series of things called Jim Crow laws. These laws were intended to target black people. Black people were found to be criminals for anything, and they held public lynchings during the Jim Crow period. That continued until 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education desegregated schooling. Of course, white people were not happy about that. There's lots of videos and photographs of it. And then in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which was supposed to provide equality across the races. Of course, white people were pissed about that. Now wait a goddamn minute. You're only talking about the bad things that white people did. What about the good things? Now slow down there, Cletus. I haven't talked about all the bad things yet. This is just the overview. We haven't even got to gentrification, redlining, legacy admissions, the war on drugs, the FBI infiltration of black liberation movements. The white race has a very long history of oppressing and marginalizing black and brown people. This is just the overview. Like all the inventions and things that we did. You're right, white people have invented things, but do you know how many inventions white people stole from black people? Pop quiz, who's the king of rock and roll? Elvis Presley, baby! He stole his entire style, music and dance, from black musicians who were not allowed to play publicly, and so he was the white face on their black music, their black style, and he's the one you remember. Same thing happened with inventions. Yeah, when you brought up the Civil War, white people fought to free black people in the Civil War. Wrong. This is a talking point that was started by the United Daughters of the Confederacy in the early 20th century, that white people fought to free black people in the Civil War. But the problem is you cannot simultaneously be the cure and the disease. You've heard of Harriet Tubman? Yeah, of course I have. Why do you think Harriet Tubman led the Underground Railroad and not a white person? Because black people were continuously and always fighting for their own freedom and to get out of their own oppression. And along the way, some white people might have helped, but black liberation has always been led by black people. And the North didn't fight to free the slaves. The South seceded from the North and then attacked the North. The North just fought back. That was just self-defense. So basically what you're saying is I should just be ashamed to be white because we ain't never done anything and we ain't worth a shit. But what you're feeling is a natural reaction to your entire worldview being challenged. White fragility and white rage is very well documented, but I don't want to get into that in just the overview. The main thing I want you to take away from today's class is that white race was created for white supremacy, for colonization. Its entire purpose was to make this fake majority so they could rule over an entire other class of people and exploit them for their labor. So if that's how the white race began, and that's how the white race has continued to be used for the last 200 plus years, then I'm not telling you there's no good thing that white people haven't done. That's just you trying to avoid the accountability of what our ancestors truly did, because actual white history isn't taught in school. But thanks to what you and I have started today, maybe we can get the truth out there. Oh, hell no, goddammit. I wasn't meaning this shit. I want no part of this. What's wrong, Cletus?